What is up, Crimson Tide Nation and Gamecock Nation? It's your good buddies, Jackson Johnson and Lucas Hill from Alabama at the Voice of College Football and South Carolina at the Voice of College Football, as we'll be going over an early preview of the Alabama-South Carolina matchup that will be occurring on October 26, 2025. Well, my mistake, October 25th, 2025 at Williams-Brice Stadium. And let me tell you something, folks. You're going to be in for a wild ride. How you doing today, good buddy?
Jackson, good to have you. Good to see you, brother. Thank you for having me on, man. Excited to talk a little bit of ball.
Oh, it's always fun, excited talking about some ball with you, good buddy. Well, I will say though, because I'm thinking about this Alabama South Carolina matchup, and this year it looks like it could be a trap game for the Crimson Tide. Now, we almost lost to South Carolina last year, and I'm going to be real, Alabama got lucky in that game. They got lucky. It's like you don't mess up an onside kick and hope that you don't lose. Like, come on. It's like, that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back at that game last year, there was a lot of missed opportunities that Alabama really was able to take advantage of off of what South Carolina gave them. I mean, but at the end of the day, I think from that game on, that's where you saw South Carolina really take strides, really see the type of offense that they can be with Lenore Sellers at the helm. I mean, from that game on, that was an offense that averaged 455 yards a game following that Bama game. And it really showed the people in South Carolina, like, this is a program that is only going to go up from here. I know a lot of people were hot with Beamer after that 23 season where you go 5-7 after winning 9 games in 22. But I think now that you have the offensive consistency and now you have a Clayton White defense that is consistently in the top 25 at the end of the year, that has playmakers, that you're recruiting at a high level, I think there's a lot in store for 25. A lot of people, and I've talked to a good bit of people around Gamecock Nation. I've been able to really kind of get to know them over the last month and a half, 2 months. They firmly believe that they can be a college football playoff contender at the end of the year. And I'm pretty interested to see that, even though I already have them going 8-4 this year. I do see that this, like you mentioned already, Jackson, this is an opportunity for South Carolina to steal one and possibly get the biggest win that Shane Beamer has had in his 4 years at South Carolina.
Well, and the thing is, like, we're thinking about that offense. Like, for those who want to know more about the South Carolina offense, who are the guys that Alabama needs to look out for?
Well, I mean, if you can get him on the field and if he is eligible, it'd be Rasul Faison. I mean, here's a guy that's coming off of a 1,000-yard season at Utah State. If you can get him on the field and if he can finally get that waiver through with the NCAA to get him eligible, I think from what we're hearing, what Beamer said in his press conference, there's a couple more eligibility suits that they're currently having to go through. You can get him back on the field. Guys, he is a really dominant running back, a guy that I think can take over any game at any point in time. He's a guy that I think is incredible when it comes to him getting into the open space. When you get him at that second level, he's just a powerful, powerful back. I mean, here's a guy that last year, I know he played at Utah State, but look at some of the numbers that he has. Because he averaged just almost 6 yards a carry, going up against a pretty good Utah team. 19 carries, 115 yards. Look at what he did against Boise State's off defense. 26 for a $109 and a touchdown. What did he do? Probably his best game was at Hawaii, 20 carries, 191, averaged almost 10 yards a carry. So that's a guy that I think can really break out at the running back position. Now, when you look at the rest of the roster, even if he isn't eligible at the end of the day, everybody knows about Lenore Sellers. When we talked with Phil Steele about 2 weeks ago, he called him Superman. And he's pretty close to being right. I mean, Lenore's during that 6-game stretch was dominant. There's a reason why he is a Heisman Trophy contender at the end of the year. And just knowing what he can do with the football, how he can be a Heisman contender, he's going to have other guys around him to do it, to help him out at the end of the day. And you have a lot of what you can expect. Mazio Bennett Jr., a guy that I think a lot of people have been waiting for to break out for South Carolina, a guy that I think can break out going into his sophomore year. Saw flashes of potential throughout his freshman year. Look at a guy like Jared Brown, a guy that came from Coastal Carolina. He's a guy that I think could take a big step forward. Malik Clark, the freshman, coming from Rock Hill, South Carolina, a guy that I think can take a big step forward. But to me, here's two names that you need to look out for. Number one, Isaiah Auguste from Colorado, the leading rusher for the Buffaloes last year. Powerful back, doesn't go down after initial contact, will fight for yards after getting hit for the first time. The guy just is a powerful, powerful running back. It's shown out during fall scrimmages. And in fact, last week had a great fall scrimmage. Guy proved out to be one of the stars in that running back room. And I think with just how deep this class is, you look at what you had last year in that running back room compared to this year. Shane Beamer said it best earlier today. This is the best running back room that he has had in his 4 years at South Carolina. But the number one guy that I think a lot of South Carolinians are waiting to see really break out is Nick Harbor. Nick Harbor has a lot of, shall I say, DK Metcalf to him. And it's not just the size and stature. You look at what he does on the field. 6'5", 240 pounds, and runs a sub-4 640. The kid is a freak. The kid is a legit freak. And after 2 years, you saw what he did last year. He got only 26 grabs for 376. South Carolina is waiting for him to break out. They see the potential that he has. They see what he brings to the table as a receiver. The question is, can you get him the football? I think we've seen a lot from him throughout fall camp, really starting to elevate and be that number one guy that Lenora Sellers is going to have at the end of the year. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to bring to the table. Guys, this is a really deep receiver room. This is a really deep running back room for South Carolina.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I mean, I'm shaking in my boots thinking about that offense. Like, it's got me nerve wracked.
I mean, they can hit you in a lot of different ways. The option game, in my opinion, could be one of the best that they can utilize against any defense. I mean, when you think about what Lenoris brings to the table with his feet, when you get him outside the pocket and you get him just out with a guard right in front of him, guys, he can really, really take over a football game. And even if he has to pitch it out, you got Razul Faison who could potentially be out there. Obviously, I get Isaiah Auguste, who doesn't go down after initial contact. Oscar Attaway is your speedster in the running back room. So a lot of different looks that you're going to see, Jackson, a lot of different options at running back that South Carolina is going to utilize a lot in 2025. So really, really excited to look at that. I didn't even mention the defense, which I'm sure we'll get to later on in the show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. And like the offense for the Crimson Tide, for those like wanting to know a little more about the Alabama offense, of course we got Ryan Williams, got Jeremy Bernard. We're going to have Isaiah Horton from Miami. I mean, Horton heard the Tide calling for him, so he's like, nope, I'm out. I'm going Tuscaloosa. And then, of course, we got Brody Dalton transferring from Troy. I mean, he's going to be the X factor for 2025 for Alabama. That I can personally guarantee. I cannot wait to see what this offense brings. I mean, like the South Carolina offense and the Alabama offense, those are going to be tremendous offenses within the 2025 season.
I'm glad you mentioned Brody Dalton because a buddy of mine actually covers Troy. And one of the first things he said to me whenever Brody Dalton made the news to transfer to Alabama, he said, this is going to be a name that a lot of people are not going to talk about it. He's a guy that I think is widely going to go under the radar. And I think that, it speaks in truth. He's been dominant throughout fall camp. He's showing out to be that number one tight end compared to what you've seen from CJ Dupree and company. I'm not going to say he's OJ Howard-like, but I think he is a do-it-all tight end. Guy can get out in space and block, and he can get you yards. He's a check-down guy, can turn around and pick up 7-8 yards after catch easily. I love Brody Dalton. I'm glad you mentioned him as the X factor for Bama on this offense.
Yeah, because it was like the moment that we found out he was going to go to Alabama, I knew right then and there it's not going to be all on our receivers. We're going to be more than happy to see where 2025 is heading for that offense, especially when you got Ryan Grubb as your offensive coordinator. I mean, third time is the charm. We were able to get him back to Tuscaloosa for good.
Yeah, and we talked about it at the beginning of the month, you and I, Jackson, on my show. I tweeted this out at the beginning of January. If Ryan Grubb is going back to Alabama, think about how much of an impact this is going to make for this Bama offense. Knowing the type of talent that you have at receiver, knowing that this is the deepest wide receiver room in the SEC, knowing that you have the most electric player in college football in Ryan Williams, knowing what Isaiah Horton brings in the slot, knowing what Jalen Mbakwe is going to bring on the outside. You know, there's just so much talent around this Bama receiving core that it's hard to find a number one guy, because this is a quarterback in Ty Simpson that can spread the football around. Josh Pate, Phil Steele, two guys that are widely respected in the college football universe both of them said between Ohio State and Alabama, who has the better of the talent that surrounds a young quarterback? They both said that it was Alabama. And it's hard not to disagree with them.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a great quarterback situation when you got Phil Steele saying so, for sure. I mean, it was right there when you interviewed the man himself, the philosopher of college football magazines himself. It was like, yep, I feel pretty good now.
I guess Mark isn't the only one that gets the privileges anymore. All you got to do is just reach out, Jackson. That's all you got to do, brother.
There you go, man. There you go. And, I'd like to get to the defense for 2025 entering this game, for an early preview. For those tuning in and wanting to learn about that South Carolina defense, who are the names we need to look out for?
Well, obviously you have Dylan Stewart, the most exciting defensive player in college football. Edge presence is phenomenal. And from what we're getting from fall camp, they say he's better than he was last year. Dylan Stewart, in my opinion, could have a Jadeveon Clowney-like season, about like what he had in 2012. Knowing how Jadeveon Clowney could take over football games. Is he going to have that iconic moment that he had in the Outback Bowl in 2013? I don't know. You could. But I think overall as a whole, Clowney, the one thing that he and Clowney have in common is ball get off. They're both quick off the edge. Both are incredibly useful in a variety of different ways. But the big difference, though, between him and Clowney is that you can put a guy like Dylan Stewart all across the field. You can put him on the edge. You can line him up over the nose, over a guard. You can line him up over a center, and he can win those battles. He's not just an edge rusher, guys. He can drop back into a coverage. He can go cover a running back. But I think what South Carolina wants to do is utilize him off the edge. They want him to get better in run protection, and they've worked on that a lot throughout this offseason. And I think he's gotten much better as the course of the season or the course of the offseason has come along. That's not the only name you need to know. Let me just tell you. Brian Thomas Jr. could be Dylan Stewart 2.0. Brian Thomas has been electric coming off the edge. I think he had an underrated season last year, had 4.5 sacks for South Carolina. Guy that can get off the edge in a hurry, a guy that I think can really take over games. You saw what happened against Illinois last year, guys. He was all over the field. And I think that one of those, he's going to get an opportunity this year. Everybody's going to talk about Dylan Stewart, and they're going to talk about what all he brings to the table. Guys, Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be one of the more unknown names in college football, and he's going to make a name for himself like nobody else has that has gone this far under the radar. The linebacking core, in my opinion, not as deep. You lost a lot compared to last year. You lost the glue of your defense in Demetrius Knight, but you bring back a lot from the portal. Justin Arcanoro, who is a former who's an Alabama transfer from Germany, as a matter of fact. J.R. Johnson, in my opinion, is the unheralded leader of this South Carolina defense. J.R. Johnson has been balling throughout this 2 scrimmages that South Carolina has already had, consistently making plays. But in my opinion, the strength of this South Carolina football team is in the secondary. And you look overall at what they have in this DB room. Guys, you're going to have to know two names. DQ Smith, been around the program for a long time. He came back for a reason. He's the captain of this program. Won the Spirit Award on the defensive side of the ball this past spring. Was the defensive player in the spring. Started all 12 games last year. Guy's going to be all over the field as a safety. He is your unheralded leader in that secondary. And then the all-SEC DB, and a guy that I think can elevate his draft stock this year, is Jalen Kilgore. Jalen Kilgore really showed out last year and really elevated his game off of his All-American freshman season and continues to be a name that is going to not get a whole lot of looks this year. I don't think people are talking about Jalen Kilgore as much among the top DBs in the nation. Jalen Kilgore very much so could end up being a top 30 pick in this year's NFL draft class. And knowing what you have, just with how deep this South Carolina DB room is, there's no question in my mind they're going to pose a challenge to this Alabama receiving corps. I'm excited to see Ryan Williams against Jalen Kilgore or DQ Smith going over the top in a 50-50 ball with Jalen Mbakwe. I want to see those type of matchups. Those are NFL grade level drafts or draft reps that is going to appear on tape for NFL scouts to evaluate. And they're going to see 2 dogs going after it. They're going to see 2 dudes that are going to consistently be at the top of draft boards by the time we get to the month of January. Jackson really excited for what that matchup in that DB room going up against that Alabama receiving room as well.
Oh, man, it's going to be fun seeing what happens in that matchup. For the Crimson Tide defense, for those tuning in that want to learn a little more, I mean, we've got T. Overton, James Smith, although he's recovering from an injury at the moment, but he'll be fully recovered by the time Alabama plays South Carolina on October 25th. And you're going to have Tim Keenan III and Justin Jefferson, no relation to Justin Jefferson at the Vikings, of course. And you're going to have Deontay Lawson, Keon Sabb, Xavier Brown. And, at some point, I'm sure you're going to see Dijon Lee get some playing time by the time we get to the Alabama-South Carolina matchup.
Yeah, I think Dijon Lee is going to end up finally getting some playing time. I think he's a guy that a lot of people have been very high on coming out of high school in Mission Viejo. Leah wouldn't surprise me, cracks the lineup by the time we get past, even before South Carolina. I think he's going to get some quality reps against Georgia. I mean, this kid is way too talented and doing way, way too much throughout fall camp to not be playing at this point in time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, I'm ready to see all these guys get rocking and rolling. I mean, I know that we're already getting it's close to week 1. We're just like a week away, but, it's it can't come soon enough. Like, good grief, come on already. We're already waiting it out.
But I'm glad you mentioned something about the defensive line, Jackson, because I think that's going to be where South Carolina may end up struggling. We are hearing some good things coming out of camp about how this offensive line compared to last year has improved on. Lenore Sellers got sacked 31 times last year, but during that 6-game stretch, he only got sacked once. So that was an offense that really changed in that 6-game stretch that was more open, that was more run oriented, that had more of check downs, get it out, get the football out quickly to your playmakers and let them roll. And that's exactly what you saw at the end of the day. That's how you saw them bully a Texas A&M defensive line that had 3 draft picks on the defensive line. And let me just tell you a little bit about this offensive line. You have Josiah Thompson, who's going into his second year. The name that you really, though, need to look out for, everybody, Nick Sharp will be fine. Trevon Bowe and Kason Henry are going to their either first or second full years as a starter. Rodney Newsom, I think, could end up getting some playing time as well. Is Boaz Stanley. Boaz Stanley is a transfer from Ball State. We've had a guy come on here a couple times on South Carolina Live and talk about him. He actually played junior college football with him as well. Boaz is a really, really dominant offensive lineman. He's been a name that I think a lot of South Carolina fans have been looking out for to really make an impact for this offensive line this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, that South Carolina offensive line, that's going to look super good. Like, I can't wait to see what they bring to the table. Like, especially when it comes to the Chick-fil-A kickoff against Virginia Tech. Like, I'm getting inside just thinking about it. Like Shane Beamer's going against his dad's old team, Virginia Tech. It kind of has that 2011 Notre Dame South Florida feel to it for some reason, because like Lou Holtz, was witnessing Notre Dame go against South Florida, but his son was the head coach of South Florida. He never picked against Notre Dame, but the one time he did was for South Florida. I think it's the same way with Frank Beamer. He never pits against Virginia Tech, but when he does, it's for his boy at South Carolina.
That's an interesting comparison that you made. But I think that first opening game for South Carolina, you should come in guns a-blazing. This should be an easy cover for you. I think the line is 9.5. This should be an easy cover. I think you win by at least 2 scores at this point. Get you a nice quality win to start the year, because Brent Pry in 1-score games is 1-12. I don't think South Carolina gets into a 1-score game. I think they have a start to finish complete package that they bring together, and I think this is going to end up being a victory for South Carolina against BT.
Oh man, Virginia Tech. I feel sorry for them already. Although I don't feel sorry for anybody that goes against Virginia Tech on Thursday nights at nighttime. But if Thursday nights at nighttime at Virginia Tech don't scare you, then there's something wrong with you in Blacksburg.
They still do Thursday night games, not in the prime time?
Well, they're doing a Friday night game this year against Cal, but it doesn't feel the same to me. Like it doesn't scream nostalgia. I don't know why. I mean, I'm going ahead and looking at their schedule. Nope, no Thursday game. So they don't even care. But it's like, nah, oh well. It's like, I mean, it's not going to compete with Thursday night football on Amazon. I mean, like Al Michaels is depressed already. Like he's just like, I want this to end. He's like, ugh. I went from Miracle on Ice to this.
You're very nostalgic, Jackson.
Yeah, he's like, and it's caught. Touchdown, New York Jets. Can I go home now? But back to the O-line for Alabama. Like, Caden Proctor is definitely a name you want to watch out for. Parker Brailsford, that's one guy to watch out for. Gino Vandermark and all those guys. I'm excited about what they're going to bring to the table. Like, I cannot wait.
I have Caden Proctor going number one in my draft, in my way too early draft stock.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
just seeing what you have overall with Proctor, a guy that you can move just about anywhere on the offensive line. He's a two-way guy, 6'7", 360 freaking pounds, and he is a mountain on the outside. That just screams prototypical NFL offensive tackle. And I'm glad you mentioned the other guys like Parker Brailsford, a guy that was on a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line with Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer at Washington, a guy that I think can move, has great lateral quickness. Both him and Jaden Roberts both have great lateral quickness. Both of them can be really dangerous when they pull out into the open space, can create a lot of lanes. The one thing that you want to hear from this Alabama offensive line, from what I'm hearing, nasty. And that's exactly what you're going to see at the end of the day for Alabama. And that should be nothing new. Bringing back that old Saban mentality. Even though you have a brand new coach, the mentality never left the building. Let's just be honest, Jackson. That's never going to leave the building anytime soon. And it starts with the big boys up front. That same mentality is going to be set for Alabama's offensive line. It's going to be a really fun year for a potential, in my opinion, could be a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line.
Oh, couldn't agree more. I mean, because it's like there's a reason that offensive line was nominated for the preseason Joe Moore Award list. I mean, like that's huge right then and there. So we're just ready to get rocking and rolling. But I will say, I would like to see if South Carolina can get a 10-win season this year. But it's like you said yourself, like they could be a 10-win team, they could be a 7-win team. Like you never really know what record they could be at. You've got them going at 8-4.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable for an 8-4 program. It wouldn't be ideal for Lenore Sellers to leave off, but like I've said this for South Carolinian fans all around, keep your expectations low, just knowing the history of what has happened the last 2 to 3 years with this Beamer program. But I think this year, I think the reason they're so hyped is basically from what you've seen before, from what you have seen as a whole, just really with this, what you return from the bulk of your roster. But this is the top 5 tough schedule in the entirety of college football. I mean, obviously, Vandy at home, still with Diego Pavia, Virginia Tech, neutral site. You should start 5-0. I think you should take care of Missouri. Then once you get from October 11th on, it is brutal. You go to Death Valley. You go play LSU in a potential rematch game that you want to try and get back. You have Oklahoma back at home, who, by the way, has probably the best transfer quarterback in all of college football, in John Mateer, a team that has been very hyped up to potentially be a college football playoff contender. You have Alabama at home. You go to Vaught Hemingway to play Ole Miss. You go to Kyle Field to play Texas A&M, and then you finish it off with Coastal Carolina and Clemson in the Palmetto Bowl. I think realistically, you lose 3 on the road to LSU, Clemson, or Texas A&M, and Ole Miss. We'll see what happens with Clemson, but I like Clemson's roster. I just don't have that great of a feeling with Clemson coming in to Willie B as potentially stealing a win there. Just knowing how deep this roster is compared to what you saw last year.
Oh man, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I mean that is a brutal stretch. I would not wish that on my worst enemy. I mean, you got Kyle Field, Vaughn Hemingway, Death Valley. Good grief. Well, on the bright side is South Carolina can tell us which is the real Death Valley, LSU or Clemson.
We'll find that out in week 1, actually. So
I am so looking forward to that, man. Well, Lucas, what have you got going on in your world, good buddy?
we'll be live having our call-in show On Wednesdays, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. Got South Carolina live on a regular basis. Mondays, probably going to end up moving into Tuesdays because we got school starting to come back up, and we'll be on campus pretty late. So we may end up moving those. We may end up going from Monday and Wednesdays for live and call-in to the same time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're pretty consistent on Inside the Huddle. We got our SEC live shows continuing on. We're wrapping up game-by-game predictions, season previews, game predictions for week 1. So we're rocking and rolling, Jackson. Did you have a final prediction for this game?
Well, right now, I think it's closer than the experts have it. I feel like it could be like an Alabama 24-21 victory, but that could change by game week. So this is preseason prediction.
You ready for this, Jackson?
Set.
One of the biggest upsets that South Carolina gets, big win at Willie B in that environment, going up against a very, very good Alabama roster. No question about it. But Superman reigns supreme. That's why Phil Steele called him that. Give me South Carolina upsetting Alabama on the road. Alabama's got to win a road show, man. You went 0-3 against top programs on the road last year.
Oh, we were forced down.
And I should say 0-3. What was it? 1-3 against top 25 opponents on the road? Oh, because Oklahoma, LSU, Tennessee, and then Vanderbilt. Well, if you really call it top 25.
Vanderbilt and Oklahoma were unranked, and it was just like, good God. Like,
can you get consistent? That's going to be the problem for Alabama this year. They probably will. That's going to be their one blemish this year, though, Jackson. I have that as my only one loss for Bama. I have them still going 11-1 and winning the SEC at the end of the day, though.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, it's just nerve-wracking to go against South Carolina at Williams-Brice, and it's going to be nerve-wracking to go against Auburn on the road because it's like, it's been said a million times. Like, I'll say it till blue in the face. Last time we beat Auburn by double digits was in 2015, 11 months before the founding of TikTok. Let that sink in.
Gosh.
And
that's
part of it was because
right there.
Oh man. Well, it's like nowadays, like instead of it only being the teenagers enjoying TikTok, it's now the moms and dads enjoying TikTok. Where like the teenagers are like, we gotta find a new trend. Oh man.
Jackson, it don't matter how old you are, brother. We still all teenagers at the end of the day.
Oh yeah. No doubt about that, good bite. No doubt about that. So tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publish about the magic that Lucas Hill is bringing on South Carolina Live, on South Carolina The Voice of College Football, and on Inside the Huddle, all right there. And you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979 on my personal YouTube, where I've got numerous episodes of the Jackson and my collaborations with Sports Talk with Austin and Will and D. And you can check me out on Jackson BOCFB on @/Twitter and on Instagram and threads at Jackson Johnson 543908. Where I've got numerous episodes of Jackson on there. I discuss my updates on Alabama with the Voice of College Football and my call-in on the Paul Feinbaum Show, where the weekends are full of surprises. Now, that being said, like, comment, subscribe to each of these channels, to South Carolina at the Voice of College Football and to Alabama at the Voice of College Football, so you never miss another video or another episode from each of these channels. And we will see you soon. And roll Tide!